Hey, trauma queens. Welcome back to the Silent Mother Project with me, Sam Richardson. Forgive me for the audio quality. I am battling some severe allergies, so my voice is not at the best. And we are in another heat wave here in Northeast Ohio. It is hot as balls up in my studio, so I have to have the air conditioning unit running, which you may hear blowing around in the background. So a bunch of stuff has happened to me recently. A lot of good stuff, some crazy stuff, and I haven't had the chance to sit down and just talk about it. I haven't even had the chance to sit down and process it in my own head. And if I'm being completely honest, which, I try my best to be, I have been scared to sit back down at the microphone and just speak authentically without some type of guide. I don't really like speaking with a script, but over time, because of the platform I was growing and the online hate I was receiving, it became scary to just sit down and talk and feel imperfect. I mentioned this in the past where it's a lot easier to make a podcast when you don't think anybody's listening. And not only do the people who like you listen, but the people who don't like you also listen and will follow everything you do. And honestly, it's creepy as fuck. And I've had to figure out and keep going with all the drama. Because here's the thing, if you put yourself out there, no matter how authentic you are, no matter what you talk about, you can have any niche. There are going to be haters. There is going to be somebody who has a problem with what you're doing. And it really sucks because the people who are the loudest, they don't even actually know you. They're complete strangers who think they know you because they have followed you and seen small little clips of you. And even if they've seen bigger clips and they've watched all of your content, they do not know you. Parasocial relationships are so freaking weird, and that deserves a whole episode in itself. There are so many things I want to address, so many things I want to talk about, express my opinions on, share exciting news. And honestly, that's another reason why I haven't gotten back to the mic, because it's like, where do I start? I keep feeling like I have to start back from the beginning and backtrack and catch everybody up because new people keep coming and people keep bringing up my past. Like, well, what about this lawsuit with your neighbors? And were you that crazy nail salon lady? And for so long, I feel like I have had to stay ahead of those comments where I keep backtracking and re-explaining the same story over and over and over again for all the new people who are just now discovering me. I don't want you to be here if you don't want to be here. If you don't like me, if you don't like what I have to say and what I do, that is completely fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm more of like a shot of, I don't really drink, so I don't know what to say I'm a shot of. I don't know what's kind of like fiery and spicy, but I'm also super sweet. What's something spicy but also sweet? Am I a Sour Patch Kid? Wow, I just had an epiphany. Having CPTSD is like being a Sour Patch Kid. We are trauma queens who started as Sour Patch Kids. Sorry, my ADHD is just like taking us on a creative wild goose chase here. But I think that's a good segue into the topic I really wanted to focus on today. The other day I posted on Facebook and Instagram asking for you guys to comment on topics that you would want me to talk about. To my surprise, I got an overwhelming response. Thank you very much. And there was a great variety of different topics and themes I could talk about. But within some of them, I noticed kind of like a common thread and a connection. There were multiple ones asking how I manage the online hate, how I'm able to keep going, how I manage my mental health, how I am able to balance doing this and being a mom. And one of the most profound comments that I received and surprised me, because I don't think I've ever been asked this, and I don't think that I've even ever asked myself this. But someone asked me, what would Sam be like not having been through the trauma of losing Kaydance? Would your life have had a different path? What is something you want to accomplish that is just for you? What would I be without my trauma? I don't even know how to begin answering that. I guess because I honestly didn't even realize that so much of who I am today is because of my trauma. This is very mind-blowing for me. It is not something I have sat and thought about, really, and this is the first time I'm doing so. I think the connection between some of these questions is my trauma itself. So I have been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I do have a past episode where I explain the difference between complex post-traumatic stress disorder and just post-traumatic stress disorder. But if you're not familiar, the complex part of it means that I have endured prolonged trauma throughout my childhood and my life, and it has affected the way I function in my daily living. It affects my relationships. It affects how I am present out in the world. That makes me sound like a psychopath, I know. And so many haters love to misdiagnose me in the comments. Call me a psychopath, call me crazy, tell me I have mental issues. Yes, I do have mental issues. I am on medication. I see a therapist. I have safe and supportive people, but I am not crazy. I am traumatized by so many different life experiences that I've had no control over, and by people being straight up narcissistic assholes. If you are new here, you can go back and listen to other episodes learning more about my personal history. My podcast used to be called Living Richardson because that is the handle I go by online. I'm a lifestyle content creator where I talk about my life as a mom living with mental illness. And that's what my podcast was originally, just me talking and sharing about anything. So my stories are out there. You can go listen to if you would like to. And in the future, if you would like me to retouch on some of those episodes and those stories, I would love to do so. But for now, if you're missing some of my history and the backstory, it's there if you want to go listen. I got off track. What was I talking about before that? Oh, because I'm mentally ill. I also have ADHD, and I get off track a lot. So here we are. Oh, CPTSD is a bitch. Most days, I wish I could just hide under the covers and not have to deal with anybody because I don't like people anymore. I used to be the sweetest, most bubbly people person, and I still am if I feel safe. But if my guard is up, if I am on alert, which is most of the time because that is what it's like to live with this condition and be hypervigilant all the time. You see danger everywhere and you feel like you have to constantly be on alert because if you let your guard down, something bad could happen. Sidebar, here's a little side story that this just reminded me of. And this is kind of my CPTSD going hand in hand with my OCD, where I obsess over certain ideas and thoughts. And if things are not executed the way I think that they should be, then I also think something bad could happen. For example, recently I was given the opportunity to attend the Trending Up conference in Washington, D.C. I had to fly on a plane. I like flying. Like, I love the experience of going to the airport and being in the airplane and stuff. But I also can't get it out of my head that we're just going to fall out of the sky. Any little bit of turbulence, I'm having a panic attack. When I was going to Washington, D.C., thank goodness it was only like a 45-minute plane ride. Well, when I'm on the plane, I find it hard to keep my headphones in because I feel like I have to be listening to everything around me. Also, I was 12 years old when the Twin Towers fell. I feel like I also have to be aware of the passengers and their conversations on the plane. Listen, I know I'm not a secret agent and I'm not taking anybody down, but this is my brain telling me to scan the room for any possible threat and figure out how to get yourself to safety. Not only can I not put my headphones in and block out everything around me, but I also started to freak out because I love a window seat. I love being able to look out the window as we're up in the air. However, I feel like if I lean too far to look out the window, I'm going to make the whole plane fall over to the side. Yes, I do know it's an irrational fear. But it's what my body is truly telling me it's happening, and I tense up. And that's where my flight, fight, freeze, fawn response kicks in. When I start to have my panic attacks, feel like I'm in a moment of experiencing trauma, I would first like to leave the situation, which is why I have walked away from many places and said goodbye to many people. Because if I do not feel safe in a room, I will no longer enter that room. If flight is not an option, leaving the scene, then my next go-to is fight. Put my dukes up, and not necessarily physical. I've never really been in a physical altercation, but I fight with my mouth. It is loud and it can run 100 miles per minute. And if I cannot fight back in a situation, hence being in an aircraft, I simply will freeze. And then that's when I disassociate. I am happy to report that I survived both the flights to Washington, D.C. and back. But I have to tell you that I am freaking out again because I have been invited by the organization Define America to join their convention out in Los Angeles, California in September. And this Midwestern girl has never been to California, you guys. I am so freaking excited. However, that means I have to board a plane for like 5 hours there and then 5 hours back. I have about 2 months to prepare for that. Please send me all of your flying anxiety tips and tricks. Thank you. Sorry for the little side quest I took you on. I hope you found it of value or at least entertainment. What I was saying before I took you down the glory hole, sorry, I had to, was that I never really thought about who I would be had I not gone through some of my trauma, but especially the trauma of losing my daughter, because I think I've been surviving ever since then, that I've never really slowed down enough to stop and think about what I would be like if I didn't experience that. I recently made a reel where I was advocating for pro-choice, and I briefly explained how I was given the choice to continue my pregnancy with Kaydance or terminate it once I was about 24 to 25 weeks pregnant, and we found out she was going to be born with pulmonary atresia. To my surprise, that video has gone viral, and there have been a lot of comments from both ends of the spectrum. And I explained that I made the choice to continue my pregnancy, even though there was a choice that she may not survive this congenital heart defect. And once she was born, it was a lot worse than we thought. And we did everything we could, and she ultimately passed away. I buried a child when I was 19 years old. First entrance into both adulthood and motherhood. And then I went into debt because I couldn't afford her funeral. And when I say I went into debt, I don't mean like thousands upon thousands of dollars. The funeral home was nice enough to not charge me for their facility use for the actual calling hours, but they did have to charge me for like the embalmment fluid and all that. And then I had to pay for the burial services and the ground plot. And this was back in 2009. And I believed the total after everything was like $6,000 or so. And I know that is not like hundreds and crazy amount of debt, but that's $6,000 that I don't have. And I was 19 years old. I had no credit. I had nothing to my name. I didn't have parents that took care of my finances and taught me how to deal with life and all this shit. I started out adulthood $6,000 in debt with a dead child. After she died, I laid around on the couch at home, just watching movies, trying to process and heal. And after about a month, something just hit me that I realized I was 19 years old. I could either sit on the couch forever crying, or I could do something with my life in a way to honor her and the experience she and I went through together. I know a 6-week-old doesn't sound very old, doesn't sound like they're really cognitive and they understand, unless you have carried that child in your womb, gave birth, and then physically touched her and spoke to her. You do not understand how much you can bond with them from birth. Even now, looking back, it's hard for me to be like, how did I go through so much and make such a connection with her and remember this vivacious personality in this newborn? Like, there's no way a newborn was like that. But she was, and they are. I honestly don't know what changed in me that day I picked myself up off the couch and decided to keep going. You know, maybe it was because she fought so hard for 6 weeks that I feel like it's almost doing her a disservice for me to play the victim. Oh, woe is me. I was still young. I still had a whole life ahead of me. I could still be a mom. And because of the religious upbringing I had and the type of support system or lack of it, not that I didn't have any support system, but just the type that I had, instead of truly processing everything after she passed away, I just went into survival mode. And how do I keep going? How do I fix this? And I honestly think that that's what I've been doing since. But the trauma honestly started way before I ever got pregnant and became a mom. There's a lot of trauma in my childhood. And growing up, I had to learn how to tap into my survival responses. I tried like hell to fight back, but I was always told to stop talking. My opinion, my voice, none of it matters. So I learned to keep my mouth quiet. And if I couldn't run away from a situation, then I would just freeze through it, disassociate to where I was in a better place in my mind. And I can't even begin to tell you how dangerous that is to yourself, how you're putting yourself in harm's way by disassociating and freezing and letting people just have their way. Truly going through the experience I had with Kaydance, I don't mean just having a child that passed away, but the experience of being pregnant, having to make all of these decisions at such a young age. I mean, my brain wasn't even fully developed yet. Then she's born, making all of these insane decisions in the hospital, living in the hospital and in the Ronald McDonald House. I cannot praise the Ronald McDonald House charities enough. And then when she passed away, I had to make the decisions of a funeral and the burial. I am 36 years old now, and she's my oldest living child, but my second born daughter just recently turned 15. And I mean, she is only 3 years away from how old I was when I first got pregnant. And she and I have had such different upbringings. I cannot imagine her going through what I went through at 18, 19. She's a baby. I was a baby making all of these huge life altering decisions, not only for myself, but for a living, breathing thing. And even though I fought like hell and I think I made the best decisions, I don't really think there's a right or wrong decision in these type of situations, but I made the right decisions to the best of my ability and listening to the doctors and doing the medical research. You know, people like to say I don't know what I'm talking about, but I have had to learn how to do some thorough research since I was 18 years old and found out I was going to be the mother of a sick child. I prepared myself well for that. You know, I wasn't prepared for her to die. I was prepared to be a parent raising a child with a lifelong heart defect. And once she passed away and I've gained all of this knowledge, not only the knowledge I've researched, but the actual life experience of being a parent living in the hospital, having a child in the NICU and the PICU, having a child receive open heart surgery at 3 days old. That altered my brain chemistry before I got pregnant, before any of that happened. Yeah, I always wanted to be a mom. Growing up conservative Catholic, that's kind of ingrained in us to have children young, and you just can't wait to have kids, and it's a blessing, although you should be married and have children in wedlock. However, babies were blessings and would be treated as such. But before I wanted to become a mother, I planned on going to New York City. I did stay local and attend Youngstown State University for a year, and then I decided to shoot for my dreams, and I auditioned for the American Musical Dramatic Academy in New York City when I was 18. Yes, I was 18 with a year of college under my belt. I graduated when I was 17. I have an end of November birthday. I started school early, okay, for the trolls that are trying to keep track. I was accepted and was supposed to go, and that's when I found out I was pregnant with Kaydance. So obviously, I didn't go. But had I not ever gotten pregnant with her, what would my life look like? obviously everything I have now. Kyle, Evangeline, Graham, Blair, the studio probably wouldn't have all of it. Maybe in some aspect I'd have a husband and more children and some kind of studio, right? But it wouldn't be Kyle probably, and it wouldn't be the kids I have now. If I wouldn't have gotten pregnant with Kaydance and I went to New York when I was 18, the program I would have been in was a 2-year program. And then that would give you the networks to audition for Broadway or, whatever path you wanted to go on. I would have received my degree in musical theater. Prior to becoming a mom, my 18-year-old life plan was to go to New York City, attend school for 2 years, find some type of living arrangement when I graduated, and just start auditioning. Start networking, auditioning, working for my dream, finding my people. I loved dancing, singing, acting. I loved the arts. I loved entertaining and becoming a different character because it's what allowed me to escape from the trauma of my real life. I started dancing when I was 3 years old. Hopefully from there I would have made it somehow on Broadway, or eventually could have found myself out in California doing television or movies. And then once my life had security, something that I never ever had, then I would bring children into the world, right? My life plan was to find a career, a lifestyle, working in the arts to some capacity. And I figured once I could no longer be a dancer or do any kind of acting, then I could be a writer, write books, and still get my art fill that way. But I don't think I would be as confident or as tenacious and resilient as I am now if I didn't go through the trauma. Having a sick child, you learn to advocate for yourself and for that child very early on. Again, I have always been a person who cannot handle injustice. That's my neurodivergent brain, literally a chemical imbalance to where I cannot let something go if I feel it is wrong in my soul. I'm working on it. I learned to start advocating for myself and for others during my time with Kaydance. But I still had no true self-respect or boundaries for people. Yes, I was a little bit more confident speaking up, but still not to the extent that I am today. And then I had Evangeline, and I went through the terrible situation with her biological father that ended in domestic violence. From that trauma, I learned to use my voice and to set boundaries a little more. Then I met Kyle, who is my husband in case you didn't know. And honestly, the answer to the question of how do I have the confidence to keep showing up is because I have a person who loves me unconditionally. Me being myself, running my mouth, posting whatever I want is the result of having a life partner that believes in me and supports me and knows my true self. Now, of course, we cannot give a man all the credit. I also have had to work on my own self-worth and self-confidence. However, having an amazing, supportive person in your life that truly does not judge you. Yeah, he'll tell me when I'm being crazy, when he thinks, maybe I overstepped in certain situations or whatever, but he understands why. He understands where my heart is, where my brain is. And trust me, this relationship did not always start off that way. It's been a lot of communication and therapy to get there on everybody's ends. But that's what's amazing about having a truly supportive partner who loves you unconditionally. They are willing to make things work and communicate and listen and learn to understand you and why you react so extremely and so crazy, because you're not crazy, you're traumatized. Not only does Kyle support me and encourage me, but he is also a Leo and confident in himself. And he is the sweetest, kindest person you will ever meet. He will be there to do whatever you freaking need. However, he also knows his worth, and he values other people's worth. And he will speak out on something if he sees it's wrong. Kyle's got big balls, guys. So I've learned to gain my own big balls from watching my husband swing his around. You know, who's to say, had I gone to New York City, some crazy traumatic situation wouldn't have happened to me there, and I would have learned to start standing up for myself more and speaking out. But I wouldn't have met Kyle. I mean, unless you believe in fate and the universe and everything coming together. But then if you believe in fate and the universe and everything coming together, then we have to believe in this timeline, right? Fate and the universe didn't take me to New York City. It took me down this path to this moment. And even though my life plan was thrown off course very early on, it seems like I'm still on track to ending up kind of where I always planned and wanted to be. I may not have gone to New York City and gotten an education and degree in musical theater. I may not have made it big on Broadway. But I've done a lot of fun stuff in my own little town and community theater. I've been a dance instructor at a studio. Even though I'm not entertaining on a physical stage like Broadway, I kind of just made my own stage on the internet. And eventually, I want to spend my time writing books. Had I not gone through that, I may not be hypervigilant every time I step outside my door. I may not react so quickly when I think I am in danger. I may not be so impulsive with my reactions. We can play what ifs all day. Maybe instead of asking, who would I be without my trauma? The better question is, who am I becoming despite of it? If I hadn't gone through everything with Kaydance and learned from that trauma, would I have been able to handle the experience with the neighbor lawsuit and handle that trauma? And then the domino effect just keeps going. I guess this goes back to my 19-year-old self sitting on the couch, contemplating which direction to go from here. Am I going to allow my trauma to swallow me whole, or am I going to walk beside it? Am I going to carry the grief like a heavy weight, unable to ever put it down and let anyone else in? Or am I going to use what I experienced to help make things better and make sure someone else who is going to experience something similar knows that they're not alone? Some of the comments on that viral video actually surprised me because some people were saying that I was a terrible person for bringing her into the world and allowing her to live in pain for 6 weeks. When I was pregnant, I was told that she had a 98% chance of survival following her first surgery. However, once she was born and we found out it was a lot more severe than we thought, things were still scary, but she still had like a 96% survival rate. She didn't actually pass away because she had a congenital heart defect. That's not what killed her. What killed her was sepsis. Yes, it was developed because she was in the hospital from having a congenital heart defect. But the heart defect itself is not what she passed away from. She passed away from a blood infection. She was getting better. And that is something I have lived with and carried. What would have happened if she didn't get sepsis? Would she still be here? And if she was still here, what would my life look like now? If she didn't die, what would my life look like now? Again, probably wouldn't have met Kyle. Probably wouldn't have had more children. Now I know, like, I'm fertile myrtle and you can't always predict pregnancy. But I don't know that I would have wanted to have more children because I would have been just so focused and worried on her. And I would feel like there'd be no way if I had more children that I could give them the love and attention they deserve because they have a sick sister that needs all my attention. And then I feel like I wouldn't be able to give her all the attention she deserved as a sick child because I had other children to take care of. You know what I mean? Like, it's all just a catch-22. So one of the recent comments I saw in that video was that her life actually didn't have purpose, that all she knew was pain for 6 weeks. That is not true. She knew love. And people ask me now if I had it to do all over again, knowing what I know now and going through all of my different life experiences, now being a 36-year-old woman, if I could go back, Would I change the outcome? Would I have terminated the pregnancy? I made the decision I made at 18 with the knowledge that I had at the time. Had I have the knowledge that I have now and could go back in time and do that, which is just honestly cruel to do to yourself. Playing the what if game is cruel to do to yourself. Unless you're doing it in a positive way, like dreaming big for the future, what if this? And that's cool. But if I had known then what I know now, would I still have brought her into the world? Yes, because the survival rate for her was so high. And, I truly believe that she was given to me for a reason. I'm a person that believes what happens for a reason. And we have to try to make the best of it. Would I want to go back and cause her any pain? Absolutely not. But if I knew then what I know now as a 36-year-old woman, would I have terminated the pregnancy? I honestly don't know the answer to that. I want to say I wouldn't. I would still believe in the odds, but I honestly don't know. And at this moment in time, that's not a little journey I would like to take my mental health on right now. But when I was 19, I promised myself that I would not allow my daughter to have died in vain, that I would not have allowed her painful 6 weeks of life to have gone unappreciated, unnoticed. I don't know the right word. But it has been my mission to turn pain into purpose. Life hits us hard. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you come from, how much money you have in your bank account. Trauma does not discriminate. My time with the microphone today is coming to an end because I have to go pick up the kids from theater camp. But thank you for these questions. Because in order to heal, we have to be able to sit and think about things and process where we came from, why we react to things the way we react. Would we react differently had we not experienced some of the traumatic events we experienced? Absolutely. I wouldn't be diagnosed with a disorder from suffering so much trauma if I could react differently. But maybe the goal isn't to erase our past. Maybe it's to stop letting our past write our future. I don't think healing is about becoming the person who you were before the trauma. I think it's about discovering who you are now and learning to love that person too. It's hard to love yourself sometimes. It's hard to love yourself when you are constantly battling your brain every day. But we are more than the worst thing that has ever happened to us. Trauma may shape us, but it does not get the final word. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. Please follow me along on social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We have some fun things coming up with the Silent Mother Project. If you would like to stay tuned of all of the things we'll be doing, you can check us out at thesilentmotherproject.com. That's also where you can reach out to me if you would like to share your story with me on the podcast. Or if you're like an expert in your field and you want to talk about something, I welcome it. Let's make connections, babe. It's taken me a while to get back into the swing of things because after moving a little over 2 years ago, I've had a hard time adjusting. I've had a hard time feeling like we belong in a new community, in a new home. There's a correlation between trauma and not wanting to decorate your house. And it took me a while to really want to put things on the wall or figure out what I wanted because I was still living in survival mode. I don't feel like it's really ours, I feel like anything could be taken from me at any minute, that we'd have to run, and then why bother fixing a house up when we're just going to be leaving again? But that's not happening. I have been decorating. I have been putting down roots. I have been getting back to myself. And yes, we have my lovely husband and support system to thank, but I know that none of this would be possible without you amazing glory holes and trauma queens. I am able to keep going and keep running my mouth and showing up authentically, no matter how nervous I am, because I know there are people out there who see me, and I thank you for that.
Man, we have come a long way since I started Living Richardson, the blog, in 2016, 17? I don't even remember anymore.
2016. It's been 10 years. Holy shit, guys. Look where we came in 10 fucking years. Huzzah. Please connect with me. I really couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for being here.